Woo! That boy getting dragged. Who am I talking about? Come on in, grab a seat, and grab some tea. Let's get into it. Killer Mike, we need you to step to the front, my boy. All right. So, Killer Mike now wants us to vote. He wants us to get out there and vote. The same man who wasn't committed to Hillary, the same man who sat down with Brian Kemp, one of the biggest voter suppressors in Georgia history, and smiled for the camera. The same man who in 2024, with everything on the line, couldn't bring himself to vote for Kamala. And now, after the Supreme Court justice gutted the Voting Rights Act, now he's on his plot, plan, strategize, organize, and mobilize. And the Black community, we're not going. And you can't blame us. Everyone, thanks for tuning in. It's your girl, Chabella. Let's dive into it. Okay, real quick, let's make sure everybody is up to speed because this is bigger than Killer Mike. Way bigger. On April 29th, 2026, just days ago, the Supreme Court issued a 6-3 ruling that effectively gutted the Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. This was the last major legal shield protecting Black voters and communities of color from racial gerrymandering, and it's gone by 6 justices, the majority of whom were appointed by the Republican president. 61 years. The Voting Rights Act of 1965, signed by Lyndon B. Johnson, bought with the blood on Edmund Pettus Bridge, hollowed out in one ruling. For the full breakdown about the Voter Rights Act being gutted, watch the next video. We gotta stay informed. So Al Sharpton called it a bullet in the heart of the voting rights movement. And he's not wrong. So in response to that ruling, Killer Mike, whose real name is Michael Render, goes on the socials and says this.
What's up? Onyx Impact, Black Male Initiative. This is Killer Mike, also known as Michael Render. 1965 Voters' Rights Act just got gutted. They gutted it. They literally eviscerated it, and it's now trying to make it easier or allowed it to be easier for states to redraw district lines to annex those most in need out. This is not just Black people and African Americans. This is poor people. So based on where you are, the more poor people are, they can chop you up. They can make sure you aren't voting on the behalf of the poor and the interests. They can make sure that it affects your schools. They can make sure it affects your jobs. They can make sure it affects every part of your life. So right now, you need to be putting pressure on our local politicians and local municipalities not to do this. You need to be putting pressure to make sure that those like you and like your neighbors still have the ability to exercise their full constitutional rights of voting, and it being effectively not eviscerating us and taking back to Jim Crow. So we're going to start the largest voter initiative possible this fall. We're going to get people out to the polls. We're going to beat up those midterms, and going forward, we're going to do more than just march and protest. We're going to go to the polls. We're going to change the people who are in office. We're going to get those laws back changed in favor of the people. This is Michael Render. Stay tuned. We're going to do something plot, plan, strategize, organize, and mobilize big next.
You guessed it. Twitter, Threads, Instagram, they all said the same thing at the same time. Bruh, you got some nerve.
It's really not supporting women in political office. He didn't support Keisha Lance Bottoms' run for mayor. He supported her opponent, Vincent Fort. And Fort had a pretty progressive platform, so that's not the problem. The problem here is Mike's pattern. His support around Stacey Abrams was questionable because he was also in support of Republican Governor Brian Kemp. He was against Hillary when she was running against Trump, even after he knew that Bernie Sanders didn't have a chance to win the presidential election. He was against Kamala's run against Trump and even platformed RFK Jr. during this presidential campaign. And now he's complaining about what's happening to the Voting Rights Act.
So now let's break this down, because this isn't hate for Killer Mike. It's simply accountability, and accountability requires receipts. So let's go through them one by one. We'll start in 2016. Bernie Sanders versus Hillary Clinton. Now, Killer Mike was one of Bernie's most high-profile surrogates. He campaigned hard for Bernie, which was fine. Bernie had real ideas worth fighting for. No issue there. But here's the kicker. When Bernie lost the primary and Hillary became the Democratic nominee, Killer Mike wasn't with her. He was openly uncommitted to Hillary Clinton. And in a world where the margins mattered, in Georgia, in Wisconsin, in Michigan, in Pennsylvania, every voice of influence in the Black community that said, I don't know about Hillary, was a voice that softened the Black voter turnout. What did Hillary's loss give us? 3 Supreme Court seats filled by Donald Trump. 3. Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett. You want to know who was sitting on that court when they gutted the Voting Rights Act 6 days ago? Those names? But wait, because we're not done, because 2016 is just one chapter. Let's talk about Brian Kemp, the Republican governor of Georgia, the man who, when he was Secretary of State, oversaw the purging of over 340,000 Georgia voters from the rolls right before the 2018 governor's race, a race he was running in. That's not opposition research. That is documented and a verified fact. And Killer Mike, he sat down with Brian Kemp. He met with him. He was photographed with him. And then he went on record and essentially said Kemp was one of the politicians he helped get elected in Georgia. This is not just a political disagreement. Brian Kemp, as Secretary of State, disenfranchised hundreds of thousands of Black Georgian voters, then became the governor of Georgia with the help of Killer Mike's cosign. And the same community whose votes were suppressed is the community Killer Mike is now asking to go back to the polls. Can't make this stuff up. And then we get to 2024, the most recent wound, the one that's still fresh. Kamala Harris becomes the Democratic nominee, the first Black woman and the first South Asian woman running against a man whose entire second-term agenda was Project 2025. Written in plain English for anybody who wanted to read it. And Killer Mike, he went on record saying, and I'm not paraphrasing, that being Black doesn't guarantee you the Black vote. Okay, cool. Nobody should get a vote automatically. But you should vote in your best interest. But here's where I land on the context. The timing matters and the influence matters. When you have a platform and the Black community has been listening to you for years, when you've built a brand around political consciousness and social justice, what you say and what you don't say moves people. It moves voters, or more accurately, it moves people away from the polls. And in 2024, Black voter turnout dipped in key states: Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, the same states that determine the outcome. And the voices of influential Black men who said, I'm not sure about Kamala, were the key places where Kamala needed for the win. You knew what you were doing by saying, you don't get my vote just because you're Black. So, the Supreme Court seats that were filled, the judges who just gutted the Voting Rights Act, they are sitting there because of the cumulative weight of every election where Black voter enthusiasm was dampened. That should concern all of us. You are considered a leader, and you guys know this, and you have used your platforms to be leaders of chaos. So some people are asking, is it fair to drag Killer Mike? Is it fair to hold him responsible for how other people voted? And I get that question. But here's the thing. Killer Mike didn't build his platform on I'm just a regular dude with opinions. He built his platform on being a political voice for the Black community. He campaigned for Bernie Sanders across the country. He was in the rooms with governors, shaking hands and smiling. He was at the Grammys talking about freedom while getting arrested in the building. He positioned himself as someone whose political judgment the community should trust. You can't claim that platform when it benefits you and then say, don't blame me when the consequences come. community isn't mad at Killer Mike for his opinions. The community is mad at Killer Mike because he used his platform to misguide many of Black people and stop them from showing up at the polls. So the plot, plan, strategize, organize, and mobilize quote, well, that's hitting real different right now after the fact that the voter rights have been chipped away. And you've been using your platform to mislead people since 2016. So here's where I land. The Voting Rights Act being gutted is definitely a 5-alarm emergency. Full stop. We need to vote. We do need to organize. We need to show up in every election, federal, state, and local, because our rights do depend on it. And if Killer Mike wants to use his platform to push that message, now, fine, use it. We need every voice calling people to action. But the Black community asking him to acknowledge his role and where we are and how we got here, that's not cancellation. That's not hate. That's accountability. And accountability is what makes movements real. Without it, you just get people talking. He's smart enough to know that. And the community is smart enough to remember everything that he's done. So where do you stand on this? Is the community right to call Killer Mike out? Or is this the wrong time for that conversation when voting rights are on the line? Drop it down in the comments. I want to hear your take. If this gave you something to think about, hit that like button. It genuinely helps the channel grow. And if you want real conversations about what's actually happening in the world right now, subscribe, hit that like button, and hit that bell. I'll see you in the next one. Until next time, chat with you soon.